What is up, guys? Welcome to my review for Supergirl Season 5, Episode 3, titled Blurred Lines. Obviously, for these videos, go over the Crisis on Infinite Earth stuff first, which means we're starting with the Martian Manhunter storyline, which I guess we do with every video, because that's the only storyline that is setting up Crisis on Infinite Earth, which is kind of a shame, because for Arrow and The Flash, it's the main character involved with the storyline. However, here it's Martian Manhunter, who is maybe a better character than Supergirl, or at least initially was. At this point, I don't even know if that's true anymore, but I think it would have been, a little bit better if Supergirl was involved in the main storyline of the Crisis, or if every hero under 38, including Superman, actually was. However, for the Martian Manhunter storyline, so far it's been okay, not exactly as good as I expected it to be, or at least hoped it would be, and just okay. However, in the storyline it is actually pretty good, so let's go over that, and then also the Supergirl storyline with Lena and SpiderGirl, whoever that is, and then later the Malefic Kelly storyline. So we will go storyline by storyline, but obviously starting with the Crisis stuff. So in this storyline, which involves J'onn J'onzz, Nia Null, and also Brainy, as one part of the storyline sees Nia being annoyed by Brainy's poems, but also later asking him if she should tell, he doesn't know who she's talking about, but tell J'onn about the memories that he didn't actually see, and that she did. This part of the storyline was not my favorite. I know people do like this relationship between Nia and Brainy, but like I said before, I couldn't care less about a single relationship on this show, and I never have, except for Supergirl and Mon-El. That one was pretty good. Everything else I don't think I really care about. Brainy is a character I do enjoy. However, this actual relationship I couldn't care less about. So this storyline of all these scenes of Nia being annoyed by Brainy's poems, again, I couldn't really care less, and I just don't care. So that's not my favorite part of this storyline. My favorite part is J'onn J'onzz looking at his memories, but even then, those memories are pretty bad. It's actually John's reaction to the memories that is, I think, the only great part of this storyline, which is actually very, very good. So, J'onn uses Nia to access his old memories that he's forgotten. He sees these memories of the past where Malefic was born with these unique powers, where J'onn thought that Malefic was given those powers by some sort of curse or some sort of white Martian, but then because he had those powers at a young age, and because he was unable to connect to the Martian hive mind, he was locked away by his father. Then Malefic aligned himself with the white Martians, which broke Mirren's heart. In these memories, you see all these people where they look like regular human beings. I think the actual memories themselves, the concept, are really good. However, there's a couple problems, namely the fact that there's all these kid actors and none of them are very good. That kind of hurts it a little, but that's not the problem. It's easy to excuse bad acting when they're children. The problem is that they're not Martians. This is, I think, the first time we've ever seen a scene set on Mars showing the Martians, but in human form. I think, like every other time we've seen Martians in human form, it's been on Earth, which kind of makes sense that they'd be in human form, but when they're in private, it makes no sense to me whatsoever why they wouldn't prefer to be in Martian form. However, that's budgetary, it makes sense, but there's absolutely no excuse to have them in human form actually on Mars. I don't know, maybe John's remembering it differently, maybe he's remembering it in a certain way that he's actually come accustomed to, or something like that, but it really bothers me that the budget is, I guess, so low that they can't have one or two scenes where people suit up as Martians, because Malefic and J'onn J'onzz don't turn into the Martian forms at all in this episode, so the low budget with the Martian forms, they really bother me. But in these memories specifically, because this is the first time we've ever seen a scene on Mars with all the Martians where they're in human form, which actually makes legitimately no sense, and is probably the most nonsensical thing I've ever seen in any of these shows. So, like I said, while the memories are pretty bad in a lot of ways, Jonathan's reaction to the memories are pretty good, as I think the acting here from Dave Herwood is pretty decent, as he reacts to the fact that he thinks that his father erased his own, and then also his father's memory of Malefic, so he gets very angry at his father for doing something that no Martian should ever do, and his reaction, I think, is really, really good. The acting, the writing, it's all pretty good for this scene. But then after Nia asks Brady if he should tell a secret that would hurt someone, in this case telling showing John his extended memories, the fact that he was the one to take away Malefak, or his and his father's memories of Malefak, and then John actually sees these memories, and again, his reaction to this is even better than earlier, as this time, instead of realizing that his father, who is currently dead, did this huge sin for the Martians, he realizes that he did it. This definitely causes some sort of character flaw in the character, but also some conflict within him, which I do like. And again, David Harwood's acting here and John Jones' reaction, it's probably the best part of this episode. So getting past the Martian stuff, there's the Supergirl storyline, which involves Supergirl and Lena. Supergirl trying to mend her relationship with Lena, and I will talk about that storyline, but there is also a couple scenes with William and James and Alex, as well as this new villain, who, her name is Caroline. I looked up her name. She's not a character from the comics. However, she does have a striking resemblance to a Legion of Superheroes villain named SpiderGirl, who has the spider powers that this character has, but also the design looks very similar. Now, she doesn't have the same name, and also she's from the present day, but it could be an adaptation of that character just with a different name set in the present day, because her name in the Legion, I'll put it on screen, I don't remember it off the top of my head, but it's not exactly a name that you would see in the present day, so maybe they just wanted to have her in the present day and have a regular name. In terms of what I think about Spider-Girl, her powers are actually pretty cool, with like the spiders walking around, and obviously the Spider-Man abilities or technology of shooting webs, in her case it is abilities, those were pretty cool. That was pretty cool. But in terms of a villain, she didn't have any lines. I didn't even know her motivation at all. It's just that she's an alien. She wants to kill people. Pretty generic and not exactly what I would call a good villain. Just basically a monster they had to take down in this episode, and for that, I guess it worked. In terms of the storyline with Kara and Lena, Kara trying to mend her relationship with Lena, while Lena is just having none of it and is trying to use Kara to her advantage to get Lex's notes so that she can accomplish her goals without going too far. And like I said so many times, Lena's storyline is terrible. Her reaction to Kara's identity reveal from Lex, and then Kara actually telling her, I mean like her genuine reaction, not the acting that she had in episode 1, it's stupid, it's completely out of character, and it makes no sense. Not to mention that in this episode specifically, Kara trying her best to mend her relationship with Lena, breaking multiple federal crimes to do so, all while Lena is taking advantage of her. It feels kind of weird because of how drastic the heel turn was from Lena, loving her as a sister and a best friend, to completely despising her and using her to her advantage to complete her goals. It feels weird. It just doesn't feel normal or natural, and I just don't like how they got here. And it also feels like Kara is basically begging Lena to not be angry at her anymore. Kara's basically walking on eggshells around her. It feels like Kara's in a very one-sided friendship, which she is, but at the same time, it feels really, really weird that they're doing that. So overall, it's not a storyline that I like, and I don't think it's a storyline that I ever will like. I probably will like where it's going to end up with Lena being the villain, because I am interested in that dynamic, similar to Superman and Lex Luthor with Supergirl and Lena Luthor. However, I do not like the road they're taking to get there, because it makes no sense to me. So there are a couple fight scenes between Supergirl and SpiderGirl. Not really her name, but like I said, for the purpose of this video, that's what I'm going to call her. But in these fight scenes, the first one is between SpiderGirl and Supergirl, where SpiderGirl defeats Supergirl, and then Guardian shows up with some sort of anti-SpiderGirl weapon and defeats her before SpiderGirl does escape. This fight scene, I think, is good, but only on Supergirl standards. Like, if it was in an episode of Arrow or even The Flash, it would not be a good fight scene. However, considering it's in Supergirl compared to the rest, it's not bad at all. Similarly, the next fight between Supergirl and SpiderGirl is, again, not a bad fight scene, at least on Supergirl standards. I don't think it's as good as the first one, which in itself wasn't exactly great. However, it's not like I said, again, it's not a bad fight scene in the slightest. And overall, this storyline, the fight between Supergirl and SpiderGirl, is fine, but I think the storyline with Lena and Kara and Supergirl isn't exactly fine at all. It's actually a little bit worse than that. So then there's the Malefak Kelly storyline. In this storyline, Malefak goes to Obsidian Tech to ask Kelly for help, and he disguises himself as an old friend of Kelly's, who just so happens to be played by Sean Astin. Sean Astin is known for the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but a lot more recently from Stranger Things Season 2, which I did watch the latter, not the former, even though I probably should. I've heard a lot of great things about it. Maybe I'll get to it one day. Anyway, Sean Astin was in this episode, which is incredibly weird. It wasn't announced or anything, but also his role in this episode It seems like it's going to be his final role in the show completely, so I don't understand why he appeared. Maybe he's just looking for work and this is the best he could get or something like that, but I think this was a weird cameo from a random actor. It didn't take away from the episode, it was weird to see such a famous actor in a cameo role or a one-off villain role kind of, or a one-off episode role on Supergirl, which currently is an incredibly low-budget show. But also, if they paid this actor as much money as it would have cost to make all of the Martians in those memories Martians instead of humans, then I think this cameo was not worth it, and this actor being brought on, this pretty famous actor at this point, being brought onto the show was not worth it, because I'm guessing he probably cost a lot more money than a typical villain of the week actor would who isn't famous. So I don't think this was a good idea, especially if it took away from the budget that could have went into those memories of the Martians to make them Martians instead of humans, which was ridiculous. In terms of my actual thoughts about this storyline, I thought it was fine, but I'm really so far disappointed about Malefic's role in this season, because he's just a character who keeps on doing these like random thing after random thing. First, he releases somebody from the Phantom Zone, then in episode 2, he transforms into Alex and fights Supergirl, and then here, he unlocks his mind control abilities. What's going on with John? Remembering everything about Malefic, that's pretty good, that's working, but with Malefic himself, he's just popping up every single episode, doing these random things, not having a plan or some sort of actual storyline, and I don't like that. I mean, episodes 1 through 8, which is all the episodes leading up to the crisis, that could have been a contained storyline where Malefic has this plan and is the main villain of this storyline. He doesn't need to appear in every single episode, and also he doesn't need to be the villain of every single episode, but definitely the villain of the last couple episodes leading up to the crisis, as he is the secondary main villain of the season, just like Bloodwork will be in The Flash Season 6. That could have been great, but instead he's just the villain of the week in every episode. That's kind of what it feels like. He keeps on popping up again and again with these random plans that have no connection to each other and aren't a part of a connected storyline that would lead up to the episode before the crisis, where after that John Jones is fully prepared for the crisis as he passed or would pass the Monitor's test. So overall, I am not liking what they're doing with Malefic. I think they basically failed the cliffhanger they set up in the last season, at least so far. I'm hopeful. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm hopeful that by the end of this season leading up to the crisis, by the end of the episode that's before the crisis, maybe by then the storyline with John Jones and Malefic will be as good as I hoped it would be, but as of right now, it seems very one-sided, with the John Jones stuff being pretty good, but Malefic himself, not exactly, except for when he's in Martian form and played by the actor who played Jon Stewart, because then he's actually pretty cool. In conclusion, this episode I thought was certainly better than the last episode, and maybe a little bit better than the first episode of the season, but still not good, and not as good as I hoped it would be. In this episode, the Supergirl Lena storyline was fine, but the storyline as a concept in general is just not working. SpiderGirl was an okay villain, but she was a mindless villain who was more of a monster than an actual character. The storyline with John was good, but I hated the memories because they were human forms instead of Martian forms, and also the storyline with Nia and Brainy was not exactly something that I loved seeing. Similarly, the storyline with Malefic and Kelly was not as good as it could have been. So overall, just I think a mediocre episode, maybe better than the last episode, but I said it's maybe a little better than the first episode, but thinking about it now, I think maybe it's slightly worse, so I'd give it a 6.8 out of 10. So anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below about this episode and all of its storylines. If you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.